Yeah, so hi all, very good evening. Uh, can you hear me properly and is my screen visible? Can you just confirm that? Okay, great. Okay, yeah, so very good evening. Welcome back to the 10th week of the TA live sessions for artificial intelligence search methods for problem solving. And this week we will be discussing some questions based on rule-based systems and yeah, in terms of complexity as compared to the previous weeks, I would say that this is one of the easiest weeks to understand as well as answer. So, yeah, I would encourage you to score as much as possible in this week's quizzes. So, without further ado, let's get started with our questions. Yeah, so before moving on to the first question, we'll first have a look at some rules and working memory that we are going to work with for the first couple of questions. So here are two rules given to you, and the working memory contains only one working memory element that is also given on the right hand side. And so I'll give you a moment to go through the rule, and then we can discuss what these rules mean. Okay, would anyone like to volunteer to share their thoughts on, let's say, first rule one? What does rule one tell us?
Rule 1 says that the number n, the number should be greater than n but less than 1. And the second is that n is even.
Okay, yeah, you're partly correct. So rule one tells us that our number should be greater than one. There's no restriction on n per se, other than it should be greater than one. And the other one you said correctly that n should be even. And so this is a part of the rule, right? So uh, what after this? So suppose we identify this pattern in a given state. So what will the rule do if we choose to execute this rule?
Divide the given number by 2.
Yeah, that's right. So the first rule says that uh, if we have a number that is greater than 1 and if this number is even, then we will divide it by 2. And the second rule says that similarly, if the number is greater than 1 and if number is odd, then we will replace it by, not replace it by, we will add this number multiplied by 3 and added 1. Okay, so with that knowledge in mind, let's start with our working memory. So what do we have here? The working memory element that is given to us is we are given a number that is 13. So does anyone want to share which of these rules will be triggered or which of these rules will be used?
Rule 2.
Okay, yeah. And is there any scope of a conflict over here?
No.
Yeah, right, that's right. Because there's only one rule that can be fired over here. So let's move to our Jamboard. Yeah, okay. So give me a moment. So this is what is given to us, right? So as a result of when we apply rule 2, what will be the changes in the working memory? What will we have? Does anyone want to share?
We will multiply 13 by 3 and add 1, I guess, according to the rule.
Yeah, yeah. So basically we will have nat n and 40, right? Can you see the screen? Yeah, that's right. So we'll add 40, right? And now which will be fired next?
Rule 1.
Yeah, yeah. So it's quite simple and quite easy. So as given over here,
Also
this,
rule 1.
yeah, that's right. Thanks. So we'll start with a number that is 13, and since this is greater than 1 and this is odd, we'll fire rule 2, right, which is shown over here, this. After that, we'll have 40, so we'll fire rule 1, right? So next we'll divide 40 by 2, so we'll get 20. This is again even, so we will again fire rule 1, right? And we'll divide 20 by 2, so we'll get 10. And then we'll fire rule 1 again, so we'll get 5. 10 divided by 2. Now this is odd, so once again we'll fire rule 2, right? So we'll get 5 into 3, 15 plus 1, 16. And then again we'll apply rule 1, so we'll get 8, then 4, then 2, and then 1. Now can we apply any more rules after this?
No, because our condition was that number should be greater than 1.
Yeah, that's right. So now that no more rules can be applied, and since our uh, if we go back to our setting, we said that allow the production system to run to completion until no more rules can be fired. So at this point, we will stop, and this is the whole progression. So if that is clear, first of all, is that clear, or is there
Yes,
any
sir.
doubt? Yeah, okay, that's great. So if that is clear, let's quickly go through the questions related to this particular setting. So the first question was, when the production system is in flight, after the first 2 rounds of firing, the newly created working memory element is which of these following? So we just solved it, but just still for the sake of it, we can,
20.
yeah, that's right. 20 will be the answer. Next, after rule 2 is fired for the second time, then which will be the newly created working memory element?
16.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Next question asks, in total, how many times we fired rule 1?
6.
Yeah, we fired rule 1 7 times, right? Because if we just go back to our solution, we see that we fired rule 1 once here, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. So 7 times, right? And the next question asks us, in how many times rule 2 was fired?
2.
Yeah, that's right. So that concludes our first example, which was a fairly simple and very straightforward set of static and questions. So uh, I hope there's no doubt in there. So let's move on to our next setting. So here you are given slightly different kind of rule. So here you have only one rule, and you have multiple working memory elements in the working memory that is given to you. Okay. And the same rule applies, that we will allow the production system to run to completion until no more rules can be fired. So what does the rule tell us over here in this case? Does anyone want to suggest?
The ID is X and the date is Y. So the action to be performed will be that for ID X, the next vaccine would be 30 days from Y.
Right, that's right. And we will add this information to our working memory, right? Whenever we encounter this kind of a situation. Now, in this case, is there a scope of a conflict?
I think there is, because we are not given the X value for 102, 103, and 104.
No, see, we are in our, okay, so let's go through our working memory elements first of all. So here, so this is our working memory, okay? This 4 timestamp that are given to us.
Sir, would it be
Vignesh, your voice is breaking. Uh,
possible to have
Maybe you can type it out in the chat. Okay, let's proceed in the meanwhile. Okay, so this basically tells us that today, so this is a class, right? This is a class, this is an attribute, and this is the value basically. Right? So if you go back to the lectures, so you'll remember that these 1, 2, 3, or in our case 100, 102, these are the timestamps. Okay, this next or total marks, these are the name of the class. Okay, this particular thing, student, which has like a upward arrow kind of thing in front of it, this is the attribute, and this Sangeeta, or one for that matter, is the value that this attribute is taking, right? So if we apply this to our example, so our class would be today, our date would be the attribute, and 27 September 2021 is the value that attribute date is taking. Similarly, another working memory element is given to us, that class is eligible, our attribute is ID, and Amy is the value that attribute is taking. Yes, Vignesh, that's what I was trying to get at. So in this case, a conflict is possible. So basically, when does a conflict occur, right? So conflict occurs when we are when there are a number of rules that can be applied, okay, and we have the choice of selecting which of these rules to fire next, right? So here, if you notice, so first of all, does anyone want to share their thoughts on which are the rules that could be, which are the pair of working memory elements that could be applied to this rule, could be used with this rule?
101 can be paired up with all the other three.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So here our conflict set would consist of, so let's for the sake of easiness, although this rule has a name P vaccine 1A, let's just call it R, okay? So we will have R 102 101. This is one possible thing that could be done. This could be done, and this could be done as well, right? So are we clear until this point, or is there any confusion till now?
Clear, sir.
Okay,
Say
great.
once more.
Okay, sure. Let's go through it once more. So, okay, let me remove everything and start from the beginning. Okay, so we are given this rule, okay, this rule. And what does the rule do? rule basically, so suppose this is our state, okay, and this is some sub pattern within that state, okay. So a rule will basically look for this pattern, okay, and if it finds this pattern, then this could be potentially applied. This rule could be potentially applied to result in some other pattern, some changes. Okay, that is a basic idea, a very high level idea behind what these rules are, right? So in our case, what does the rule tell us? That the rule name is P vaccine 1A. Okay, so this is the rule name. Right? This everything before this arrowhead, this part is the pattern that our rule will look for. Basically, a working memory element that consists of eligible ID X, where X is some value that the ID would take, and today date Y, right? And okay, and once it's fine, it finds this pattern, and if we choose to fire this particular rule, then it will add this thing to the working memory, which is basically add this class is first dose, attribute ID has value X taken from here, and next this attribute, which basically denotes that the vaccine next dose of next time of taking the vaccine would be this date Y plus 30 days. Okay, and now coming to the working memory elements that we have, so we have a class named today with an attribute date, and this is the date that is given to us. Similarly, here is another class eligible, and attribute ID, and AME is the value that this attribute takes in this particular instance, in 102 instance. Okay, similarly in 103 ID takes the value joy, and in 104 ID takes the value Roy. So in our case, if you notice, there are three possible ways in which this rule could be applied. So this X could be substituted by AME, right? And since we are given only one date, this Y will remain same for all, right? So we could have 102 over here and 101. Similarly, this X could also take the value joy, right? So we have 103 and 101. Yeah, I request you to please mute yourself. Yeah, thanks. And similarly, this X could also take the value Roy, right? So basically, these are three possible ways in which the rule could be applied, and then after this, we will use some kind of mechanism to resolve this conflict and choose one of these rules to fire. Okay, so that is a thing of different of concern, later concern. As of now, until this point, is everything clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So let's go back to our questions. Okay, so based on this understanding of the setting, the production system, the rule, and the working memory that is given to us, how many classes are referred to in the rule given above? What do you think?
Two.
Three.
Okay,
Two
so
classes.
okay, so some people say two, some people say three. So which are these classes? Would you want to share? Two or three classes?
One is date and one is ID.
Okay, remember, so date and ID are
Oh,
attributes.
sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Eligible and next.
okay, see,
Eligible and today. Eligible and today.
okay, eligible and today. Is there any other class? Let me go back to the rule.
So
First
first
to
dose as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we have three classes over here: eligible, today, and first dose. Right? ID is an attribute, date is an attribute. Again, ID is another attribute. Next is also an attribute. Okay, and X and Y are potential values that this attributes can take? So our answer would be there are three classes referred to in the rule. Okay, so moving on to the next question. So I think we just discussed this. Which of the following rule working memory element tuples will be present in the conflict set?
Sir, attributes will be considered as classes, sir.
No, no. So let me just go back to the lecture slide once more. So see, in this working memory example, this next total marks array, these are the classes. Okay, and attributes are the ones that have this pointy arrowhead pointing towards up to the left of them. Right. For example, this rank in this first working memory element, that is an attribute. Okay, or the student in the second case, second instance, or marks or rank. These are the attributes. Okay.
Yeah, okay, sir. Okay.
Okay. So uh, which of the
So the
following?
answer should be B, C, and D.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah. So as we discussed, the correct answers would be B, C, and D. Okay.
What do you
So
mean by conflict set, sir? How we can understand what do you mean by conflict set?
so conflict set, like we just discussed, is basically uh, the set of possible rules, a set of possible instances of a rule that could be applied in a given condition. Right. So for example, in this example, we had a working memory made up of these four working memory elements, right? And given these four pieces of working memory elements, we could apply rule, the rule that is given to us, let's call it rule R, with this configuration, or this configuration, right? So there are three possible configurations in which this rule could be applied. And now it's a conflict for us or the production system, you could say, that which of these three configurations of rule will we choose to fire, right? And that is the conflict that we are trying to resolve. And so these three possible configurations constitute the conflict set. So is that clear?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Sir, I had one doubt.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, if the rule requires two working memory elements to
Mm-hmm.
for it to fire,
Mm-hmm.
then then will we be able to say that any one element matches the rule?
Um, sorry, I didn't get your question. So are you saying that if, let's say, this today had not been there, then could we have fired the rule? Is that what you are asking?
No, sir. I'm saying that if since we have P vaccine 1A requires both eligible and today,
Yeah.
will we be able to say that only 102 or only 104 is how do I say it? Only one of those is matching that rule.
Yeah, I mean, at a time, only one of these can match the pattern given in this rule along with 101, right?
So if I just said 102 matches P vaccine 1A, would that be correct?
Matches vaccine. Yeah, I mean, it matches this part of the rule.
Sir, so for it to match the rule, does it have to have both the elements?
Yeah, definitely. So unless all
Okay.
the whole pattern given in the rule matches, we can't say that that rule could be fired or could be a candidate to be fired. We can't say that
Yes, sir.
unless,
Thank you, sir.
yeah, okay.
Basically, we have to frame the rule as per the elements, we can say. No? There should be one eligible date, eligible person, there should be one date. Then
Y-
only it will become a rule, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that depends on how the rules are formed. Also depends on the problem at hand. If we had some other
Oh,
context, then the rules would be different, as we'll also see in some of the coming questions.
okay, fine.
Yeah. Okay, so coming back to the seventh question related to the same setting. So how many working memory elements will be present in the working memory after 2 cycles of execution? What do you think?
So it'll be how many ever was there before plus 2.
Right. Yeah, that's right. So some of you suggest in the chat, some of you also answered. The correct answer would be 6.
I'm sorry, I'm not getting this. Can you please explain a little?
Yeah, so see, after 2 cycles of execution, so in the first cycle, you will select any one of these rules to be executed. Okay, let's say you selected this one. Let me use a different color. Suppose in the first cycle, you selected this rule to be fired. Okay, then your working memory will add another element that will be first dose. Okay, I'm not writing the whole thing, but I hope it will be clear. First dose ID would be, since this is 102, so this will be Amy, and next would be this date that is given to us plus 30 days. Okay, so this will be our 105th working memory element. And let's say in the next cycle, this particular rule is chosen to be fired. Okay, so that will consist of first dose ID would be Roy, and similarly date plus 30 days. Right. So the total number of elements in the working memory would be 6.
Fine.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So if that is clear,
Sir, P vaccine 1A is the production name, right?
that is the name of the rule. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I should have used P vaccine A as the rule name when I was discussing this, but just for the sake of clarity, I used R because writing P vaccine A for the whole time would be cumbersome. Yeah. So I hope that's not an issue later on.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, after seeing all three cases of the conflict set, the question will be over, means executed.
Yeah, I mean, here we are given only one rule. So after all these 3 instances are fired, let's say, then no more further rules can be applied. So we will stop there.
Okay, sir.
So what will be the number of total number of attributes because ID is repeated in eligible and first dose?
Yeah, so ID may be repeated in different instances, but that attribute will remain the same, right? So in our example, okay, let's see what will be the number of attributes. So ID is one attribute, date is one attribute, and next is one attribute. So we have 3 attributes basically.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay. So any more questions before we move on to the next few set of questions?
Sir, will we use this rule, means 105 also for conflict set?
No. So here, since we are given only one rule, and this rule does not have this first dose instance as one of its pattern that it needs to match, right? So this will just stay in the working memory for the next couple of cycles. So that will not be a part of the conflict set. If let's say we had another rule, let's say R1 or R2 that consisted of this first dose also as part of the pattern. Okay, let me show you an example. Okay, suppose we had another rule called R2. Okay, and the pattern that it had would consist of, let's say, first dose would be one instance, and there would be, let's say, eligible. Okay, that would be another thing, and let's say there would be another thing called second dose. Okay, something like that. Then this could form a part of the conflict set after the first cycle or the first few cycles when this particular working memory element is added later on. Okay, but since here we are given only one rule, we don't need to worry about that. So was I able to make it clear, or is it fine?
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Suppose rule has two, three sub-rules. That means there
Sorry.
are two, three conditions. Suppose any one rule has two, three sub-rules into it.
Okay.
Then in that case, suppose we match the working element. So all the sub-rules suppose are matching. Then we will say that working element is matching, or any one of the sub-rules is, then we can say
I'm sorry.
that is
What do you mean by sub rule? I'm not sure what are you referring to as sub rule.
as referred in the assignment. That means suppose age criteria is there. That means age is less than 12 or greater than less than sorry, greater than 12 or greater than 40.
Uh-huh.
Okay, there are conditions under
Okay.
only one group. Then in such cases, how we match the working memory element? That means working memory element should match with all these three, or uh, any one is sufficient.
See, I'm not sure if why you are referring to these as sub rules. So these would be some
Because it is
working
given
memory
as
elements. Okay. So this would not consist of something like eligible ID, let's say today date y less than equal to something. No, that would not be there. Is that what you're asking, or I don't know?
no, suppose the date is given. That means suppose I say that any candidate is of age suppose 40. That is a given working memory element. And suppose we divide it into the class that if candidate age is greater than 30
Okay.
or greater than or equal to 12, these are
Okay.
the rules.
Okay.
Then the name of the candidate is that paper. So in single rule, two, three conditions are given.
Okay.
So in such cases, memory element matches with suppose two, and it does not matches with third subcondition. Under
Okay.
same rule, single. Then in that case, how we call that means working element is matching with the
See,
complete rule, or
in any case, a rule will be fired only when all of these things that are supposed to be matched will be matched. Okay, if only a part of it is matched, we will not fire that rule. I will not even consider it a candidate to be fired. So if you are referring to something like this, let's say this problem that we had considered, where we are checking whether n is greater than 1 or n is even, right? So this, you can't call this like another rule per se. So this is a part of this rule, and we will check it
part
ourselves only. Okay, so if we are given 13, we are checking ourselves that 13 is greater than 1 and 13 is odd, and then we are applying rule 2 to add this 40, what is this, 40 to the working memory. Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so with that, uh, on that note, let's move on to the next couple of questions, which will be based on written it. Uh, you do not have to worry, don't need to have access to the Jamboard, since only I am using the Jamboard, which I'm sharing whenever I'm using it. So later on, I'll make a PDF of whatever I'm writing and share it with you, as I've done for all the previous weeks. Okay, so this is just a setting that is given to us. So represent the following eligibility conditions for COVID vaccination in the OPS 5 like language. So I will encourage you to do that yourselves, because that will be a good exercise. So for example, the first thing is those who are eligible or in the high risk category will get their first dose of vaccine. So it would have been something like uh, if eligible, someone is eligible, and if high risk is there, then arrow first dose of vaccine for that person. Okay. And we'll see, it'll become clearer when we look at the rate in net for this example. And another condition could be the second dose is given 30 days after the first dose, and those with comorbidity factor in age 12 or more are in the high risk category. Those who are 40 years old or older are eligible for vaccination, and frontline workers who are below 40 years and 12 years or above are eligible for vaccination. So these are the conditions that are given to us, and based on these we are to form some rules, or some rules are given to us, let's say, because we'll be working with some rules that are given to us. And a rate net that I'll just show you will be given to us with its corresponding alpha beta nodes and rule nodes, and we have to run the rate algorithm and proceed in as per the same. So I'll just show you what the rate net here looks like. Okay, so these nodes that are marked with color blue, these are our alpha nodes. Okay, and these that are marked with yellow, labeled with P, these are our beta nodes, and these marked with R are our rules. Okay, so let's take one example and see how this data net is giving us some information. Okay, so let's take the first rule. Okay, so firstly, this rule is getting arrows from two alpha nodes. Okay, this one and this one, and these are in turn getting arrows from here. So what does this represent? Basically, that a particular class first dose for a particular and a particular attribute ID, okay, next is equals to some value y, and today is a certain date. Okay, so if these two conditions are satisfied, then we can fire this rule and add second dose to our working memory. Okay, so this is something like we saw in our previous example, where we have something like first dose ID has some value, say x. Okay, and next this is another attribute has again some value y, and we have today this has date y. Okay,
Class.
so please mute yourself if you don't have a question. That would be helpful for the others. Okay, okay, so these are the two patterns that we are to match for this particular rule R1. Okay, and what will be the result of this? Second dose for this person X. Okay, so is the first rule clear? Is there any confusion about the first rule?
Sir, can you re-explain it?
Yeah, sure. Let me do one thing. Let me move it to write it in a different page so that it's not confusing. Okay, let me, yeah. So rule R1, okay. Now first we will define a set of working memory elements that need to be matched. Okay, I'm writing those in blue. First dose for some person whose ID attribute, some person X. Okay, this X could maybe, let's say, Amy or Joy or Roy, whatever. And His next attribute means that this person X is supposed to get his next vaccine, that is the second dose of vaccine, on Y, date Y. Okay, give me a moment. Yeah, am I audible? Is the screen still visible?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Yeah,
So,
sorry, my system had hanged for a while, so I lost you guys in the middle, but yeah, anyway. Okay, so this is one working memory element that needs to be matched, and the second is, okay, today this attribute date is Y. Okay, and when this happens, basically, so a person X, a person with an ID X, okay, who has already has the first dose, and the next dose is supposed to happen on Y, and today is Y. So what will happen? We'll add this working memory element, second dose, for X. Okay, is this rule clear in this format?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so exactly this thing has been represented in this retinate over here. Okay, so this is our class. Okay, first dose, this is the attribute first dose ID, and next equals to Y, exactly corresponding to this particular format, right? And the next thing is today date Y. So class today date Y, and when these two match, we can fire this rule R1 and as this add this second dose ID to our working memory. Right? This is one rule. So now is it clearer?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, that's great. That's great.
If any one of this is not satisfied, then rule 1 is not applicable, no, sir?
Yeah, exactly. So we'll work with a certain working memory. So if given our working memory elements in our memory, if certain rule is not exactly matching the condition that need to be matched, then that rule will not be considered as a candidate to be fired. Okay.
sir, we will fire the R1 and add the R1 to the working memory.
No, we will if we choose to fire R1, we will add this second dose ID X to the working memory. Okay.
Sir, the alpha nodes are A1, A2, A8, A9, and A15, right?
Yeah, all the nodes marked with A and some number and that are colored blue are the alpha nodes. All nodes
Okay, okay,
marked with B and some number and colored yellow are the beta nodes.
okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So just to clarify another question that someone had raised. Okay, so suppose this X had something named, let's say, Amy. Okay, this let's say had today's date 4/10/22. Okay, and this was also 4/10/22. Then we would add to our working memory second dose ID Amy. Okay, is that I hope that clarifies the doubt that was raised. Okay, so let's go back to our RetaNet and look at what are the other rules that are given to us specified in this RetaNet. Okay, so we had a look at R1. Now what does R2 tell us? R2 tells us that, okay, today is a certain day, okay, and a person is high risk, then make the first dose for person X after 30 days. Or is it so? Let me go back to our question. So it says that those who are eligible or in the high risk category will get their first dose of vaccine, and the second dose will be given after 30 days. Yeah. So it tells us that if today is a certain day and a person is in a high risk category, then he will be given the first dose, and his next dose will be scheduled after 30 days from now or from Y. Okay. So why are only 4 of those nodes considered as alpha nodes? So those nodes are considered as alpha nodes because they form a part of the pattern matching of the rule, right? The pattern that is to be matched. So if you, sorry, so if you go back to the lectures, a professor has shown an example of what are alpha nodes, what are beta nodes. So I would encourage you to revisit the lectures, and I hope you'll that will help you to clarify the concepts. Okay, so any confusion in rule 2?
Sir, I have a small doubt.
Please repeat. Sorry, I couldn't get you.
Sir, can I get what is fire R1 means? We are removing R1 from the working memory, or
No.
what is the action done by
Rules are
fire?
rules are not part of the working memory. Working memory elements are part of the working memory. So when we say fire a particular rule, we choose. Okay, so let's say these are a certain set of rules that are applicable given a certain configuration of working memory. Okay, and when we say we fire a rule, let's say we fire rule 1, which means that we will do this action that is suggested by the first rule. Okay, that is what is meant by R1. You could, that is a technical name. You could say that you are choosing to perform R1, or you are triggering R1, whatever you seem comfortable with. But technical term is to say we fire a particular rule. Yeah, Rishika, you raised your hand. Is there a question?
Yes, sir. Like here, you said in R2 that A1, A3, A9, and A10 are the alpha nodes. So in R1, A1, A8, and A15 will be the alpha nodes, right?
So, okay, irrespective of the rules, these are the alpha nodes. Okay, so A1, A2, A3, A4, these all are alpha nodes. If you are talking about which of the nodes are relevant to a particular rule, then for rule 1, this A1, A8, A15, and A2 and A9 are relevant. Then for rule 2, A2, A9, and A3 and A10 are relevant. Okay, similarly for R3, A4 and A11 are relevant, so on and so forth. So does that help?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, great. So, okay, so we discussed R1 and R2. Let me erase all this. Okay, so R3 tells us that the person is eligible, okay, and today is a day. Then also first dose can be given, and the next dose would be scheduled after 30 days. R4 tells us that if in the health of the person some comorbidity is present, okay, through here comorbidity is equals to present, and the person has age greater than equals to 12, then we can say that that person is high risk. That is what is suggested by R4. Okay, then what does R5 tell us? R5 tells us that if a person is belonging to the class of frontline worker. Okay, so this FLW basically stands for frontline worker. Okay, so if a person is a frontline worker, and or if the person's age is greater than or equals to 12 and less than 40. Okay, so this age can be between 12 and 40, and if the person is a first frontline worker, then we can say that the person is eligible. Okay. Okay, what does rule 6 tell us? So does anyone want to say what rule 6 tells us? Anyone?
So rule 6 would create an eligible class.
Yeah, that's right. So a person who is of age greater than 40 can be called eligible. That is what rule 6 tells us. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Subhajit, you had a question. You raise your hand. Subhajit, did you have a question?
Sir, what is the procedure to find out the number of instances of a particular rule like R2 or R1? Please give some hint.
Okay, so which of these? Okay, yeah. So I think as we see the working memory, it will get clearer. So I hope in the next few moments it will get clearer. If not, I'll come back to your question again. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so now that we have seen what our written it looks like, let's see what our working memory is. Okay, so these are basically the working memory elements that are given to us. This is our working memory. Okay, so we are told that today the date is this 27 September. Okay, there's a person named Danny whose age is 19. There's a person named Jimmy whose age is 25. There's a person named Kelly whose age is 30. Okay, also we know that so the health of Jimmy has some comorbidity. So Jimmy has some comorbidities in his health. That is another thing that is given to us. Kelly is a frontline worker. Okay, that is also given to us. Manny again is another person with age 60, and Bonnie is a person with age 50. Okay, also in Danny's health comorbidities are present, and we're also given that Sammy has gotten the first dose already, and the next dose is scheduled on 27 September 2021, and second dose Timmy is also given to us as a working memory element. So with this working memory in mind, let's go back to our written it. Which of these rules will be applicable, or could be candidates that we could add to the conflict set, or and in which configuration? I think this was also addressed the question that Subhajit raised. So let's see. Let's consider the first rule. Okay, so the first rule says first dose and today. So are there any two working memory elements that satisfy the conditions for rule 1?
Yeah, 210
Right, 210 and
along with 201.
yeah, that's perfect. So we can fire rule 1 along with 210 and 201. Okay, so let's keep a tab of the conflict set that we have. Okay, so let me just call this the conflict set. Sorry for that. So R1 with 210 and 201. Okay, any other case when rule 1 can be fired, or any other configuration that is possible for rule 1? No, right? Because there is only one instance of this first row that is given to us, and we need first
Yeah.
row as one of the patterns. Okay, so rule 1 cannot be fired, cannot be had in any other configuration. Okay, let's look at rule 2. Rule 2 says that today is a certain date and a person is high risk, then we can add a first dose. Okay, so today and high risk. So is there any configuration for rule 2 that could be added?
Not there.
Not there, right. So
Yeah.
rule 2 does not have any configuration that could be added to the conflict set. Let's move on to rule 3. Okay, what does rule 3 say? Today is a certain date and if a person is eligible. Okay. Any instances of rule 3 that could be added?
60, 207 along with
No. See, remember this
201.
is a class person, not eligible, right?
Okay, yeah, right. So
Yeah,
no one.
no one. Yeah, that's right. So no instance of no configuration of rule 3 can be added. Okay, now let's look at rule 4. Okay, so if a comorbidity is present in a person's health and if the person has age greater than equals to 12. Now, I suppose this will have many possible configurations, right?
205
Okay, Jimmy has,
209,
and 209.
202,
okay, Danny, but yeah, Danny, okay, and another one,
203,
yeah. So basically, we will have rule 4 with, okay, what did rule 4 first have in hand? Health is comorbidity, okay. So 205 and 203.
Yes.
Another configuration could be
9 and 202.
9 and 202, right? So these are the possible. So let's add this to our conflict set.
two zero three also.
Yeah, 203 we have added, right? See, 203 cannot independently be set to fire rule 4 because we also need another piece of information that is supplied by either 205 or 209.
204 also satisfies greater than or equal to age 12.
Yeah, but we are
But
not, yeah,
comorbidity is not there.
yeah, we are not told that Kelly has a comorbidity, right? So we cannot fire rule 4 for Kelly.
Jimmy also do not have comorbidity.
Sorry?
No,
Just
Jimmy is having in 205.
Yeah, see,
I
205.
understood it is clear.
Okay, great. Okay, so let me just quickly remove this. Okay, now let's look at rule 5. Okay, what is rule 5? A person is a frontline worker and his age is less than 40 or greater than equals to 12. Then we can add eligible, right? So which of the possible combinations of rule 5 can we add to the conflict set?
204
206,
and 206
Okay, let me use a different color to mark it. So 206, okay, Kelly is a frontline worker.
along with 204.
Okay, yeah, nothing else, right?
Yeah, nothing else.
Okay, so let's add that. So rule 5, 206 and 204. Okay, finally, let's have a look at rule 6, which says that if a person is age greater than 40, then that person can be said to be eligible. Okay, now which of these would be applicable?
207,
207.
208,
20,
No.
207, 208.
and that would be independent, no? No combination is required for this.
Yeah, because we are given only one condition to match, that a person with certain ID has age greater than equals to 40.
Yes.
Yeah, so these two, 207 and 208, right?
Mhm.
Let's add that. So rule 6, 207 and 208. Okay, so this is our conflict set. Okay, and we are to select any one of these rules to fire. Now let's say that we are using recency as our conflict resolution technique. Now what does recency say? That the most recently fired rule as per our working memory will be fired again. So let me revisit the working memory. So which rule do you think has been most recently fired?
Age greater than or equals to 40.
No, that is a part of a pattern, but a rule, I mean these R1, R2, R3, R4, R5 or R6. Which of these do you think has been most recently fired? A hint is to look at the last working memory element that is present in your working memory.
Second dose to me.
Rule 1.
Yeah, yeah. So see, the last working memory element is second dose, right? And where was that coming from? Rule 1, right? So given a recency as a conflict resolution technique, we will choose to fire R1. If it had been some other conflict resolution technique, let's say specificity, then specificity tells us that whichever requires us to do more number of tests in the pattern matching will be fired. So that will have another answer probably. And you can check that out for yourself later on. So yeah. So if that is clear, let's quickly look at the questions that we have solved most of the questions, but just for the sake of completeness, let's just have a look. Okay, so the first question asked us the location of the working memory element 201 is what? So 201 was today is day 27 September. So what would be the location? A9, right? So that is where the date is residing. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So 201 with dates 27 September will have a location A9. Okay. So next question is the location of working memory element 203. Okay, so see what 203 was. Person, ID Jimmy and age 25. Okay, so I'll just go back to the written it. So which of the alpha nodes could be possible locations? What do you think? Node or nodes?
So it could be A18 or A19.
Okay, yeah, that's right. So a person with a certain ID, okay, we are given that the age is 25, right? So that satisfies both greater than equals to 12 and less than 40. So A18 and 19 could be the locations. Okay, so A18 and A19. Okay. The location of working memory element 211 is, okay, so 211 was second dose. So what do you think will be the answer here?
A15.
No, see, 15 would contain the instance of first dose, right? So the correct answer here would be, so second dose is the result of a rule, right?
Rule 1.
Yeah, so it will not
18.
reside in any of the alpha or beta nodes. So our answer
Yes.
would be nil basically. Okay, remember the question states enter the label of the alpha nodes as a comma separated list or enter nil. Since 211 does not reside in any of the alpha nodes, the answer would be nil. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's great. And okay, so the number of instances of R6 or rule 6 and rule 2 in the conflict set are, so we just solved that, so let's count. So rule 6 is appearing 2 times and rule 2 is not appearing even once, right? So rule 6 would be 2 and rule 2 would be 0. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's check. So rule 6 has 2 instances in the conflict set and rule 2 has 0 instances. And the final question, the recency questions which we just solved, was if the inference engine uses recency as the conflict resolution strategy, then identify the rule that will be ready to fire. Okay, so what was the answer in our case? Does anyone remember?
Rule 1.
Rule 1. So rule 1, 201, 210, that will be fired. Okay, so
we're choosing the one with the least number of tuples?
no, we are choosing the one that has been most recently fired, recency.
Okay, sir. So whichever one has been most recently fired, we'll list all of the.
Yeah, so we have a list of possible rules that could be fired in our conflict set, and out of these we will choose whichever rule has been most recently fired as per our working memory.
Sir, so then would we also have to? So because it's been fired, do we have to do it in ascending order, or do we have to mention the most recent one first and then go descending order?
No, you have to fire only one rule, so you have to select only one rule.
Yes, sir. I mean inside the rule, the line numbers.
Okay, line
Do we have
number.
to go in descending order?
Okay. So that will actually depend on in what order this rule is formed. Okay, so if this rule had first toes before, then it would be, this instance would be, this working memory element would be before, and then today will be there, so on and so forth. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that brings us to an end of today's session. So are there
Sir,
any?
1 minute. Can you show the answer of the previous question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
So if they ask about specificity, then what should we write?
Then you will look at which of the rules require the most number of tests to be done. Okay. Whichever is most specific. Okay. Specificity means that whichever gives you more specific conditions to check. So you will select that
Sir,
rule to be
so
fired.
will we select the rule that has the deepest level in the tree?
Yeah, I mean you could check the whichever is you could find that for yourself. Okay, so I would encourage you to see for yourself, go through the retinate and see which one has more specific conditions to check for. Okay, and by the way, to correct my previous answer to one of the questions that was asked, so here I see that the rule has been listed as rule 1 201 210, and the working memory consisted of 201 before and 210 later, although the retinate consists of first dose before. So I'm not sure what is the exact order in which this should be listed. So um,
I think that won't be the like 201 comes before 210, so we have to give that order, numerical order. I think it was mentioned somewhere.
okay. It was mentioned, is it?
मुझे like I feel so that I have
Okay,
numerical is
let me just check.
numerical is something I read somewhere. Increasing order.
Right. So the question tells us your answer must be a comma separated list starting with a rule label followed by the timestamps of matching WMEs in increasing order. That's why we are mentioning 201 before 2010. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, ma'am.
Understood, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so Josephine, the professor has also mentioned in the lecture. So that's great. You can also revisit the lecture then. That's great.
Sir,
Okay.
as a
Okay. Yeah.
kindly upload as soon as possible, sir. We'll be waiting for the upload.
Yeah, so this presentation, the slides are already uploaded in the folder. So the videos might take maybe an hour or so because it's a 1 hour video, right? So
That's fine, sir.
okay. Yeah.
In
Sir,
my
where are
case,
the recorded videos are available?
Yeah. All recorded videos are available.
Where, sir?
So if you go to the section on Swayam, there is a section called problem solving session. Okay, so if you click there, it'll lead you to a Google Sheet that
Yeah.
contains the links to all the YouTube. So all these videos are uploaded on YouTube. So it will take you to the respective videos for each week, and also a folder that contains the slides for each of the previous weeks.
Okay, thank you, sir.
In my case, I was not able to see that video of week 9. I was not able to play it. It was
Okay.
not playing in my case. Was it
Uh,
the problem in all of the cases? Or I don't know.
I'm not sure because I was able to play it. Another person also had raised a similar issue, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. I'm not
Yeah,
sure if
actually,
there's
I
something.
tried a number of times, and because I was having certain doubts, so I was trying again and again, but I was not able to play it.
Okay. So did you try any other device, like some, let's say, mobile or some laptop or some notepad or
No, no,
something?
the same laptop I am always opening up.
Okay, so I'm not sure whether this is something device specific. So if that happens, then please try some other device and hopefully it will be resolved. Yeah, I'm not
On
sure.
laptop, it is not opening. On mobile, it is opening.
Okay, I'm not sure why that is happening because in my laptop it's opening, so I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know why that is some technical issue with YouTube, maybe. Yeah.
Because otherwise all others were working fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank
hopefully
you.
this one will work. So yeah, let's see.
కాన్ఫ్లిక్ట్స్ ఎక్కడెక్కడ వస్తాయి కాన్ఫ్లిక్ట్స్ ఎక్కడ వస్తాయి R1కి
Okay,
R1
so if there are no more doubts, then
వాల్యూ ఏది గ్రేటర్ దాన్ ఈక్వల్స్ టు 40 అన్నాం ఏది
Sojanya,
గ్రేటర్
did you have any questions?
గ్రేటర్ 5 ఉంది
Okay, I guess not. So I'll just. Okay, so if there are no further questions, let's close the session and let's meet next week.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
see you all next week.
Thank you, sir.